Many men have nothing to smile about. Been broke down, too proud to cry it out. Walk a mile in my boots and you know what I'm about. I took some licks and I took some hits and I found out them bones can actually break sticks. But them words are powerful as shit.
Hello there, everyone. Here we are again at the wonderful BD Local, and we're doing this Let the Paint Dry podcast. And it's such a joy for me to come in here into this quiet, peaceful place and to share my thoughts with you. And I never know what I'm going to say. I never know how the show will turn out, and I like it like that. I like the improv element, which is a huge practice in my life. And my creative practice is to improv. And, we start with a song and we do this introduction to welcome you. And then we start with a song. And I've been sharing this with a small group of my friends, and they have pinned this part, the medicine song. So I've been thinking about the word medicine and wanting to put it in song form. And so here we go. This is my medicine. This is my medicine song. It runs like a river, but it heals my soul. This is my medicine song. Some days it is a gentle hum. Some days it reaches the mountain. This is my medicine song. This is my medicine song. Some days it's short and some days it's long. This is my medicine song. May you find your healing melody. May you sing it in the streets. May you find your healing melody, and may it bring your house and your soul some peace. This is my medicine. This is my medicine song. Some days it's short, and some days it's long. This is my medicine song. Sometimes I sing it in the morning. Sometimes I sing it in the night. Sometimes I pray it. Whoa, hey, hey, this is my medicine song. So welcome to Let the Paint Dry. We're here on Tuesdays at 1 o'clock or 1-ish. We're just showing up. We show up how we are, where we are, with whatever we're carrying. And that's a huge part of what I want to promote and what I want to talk about is just showing up. And showing up is like 80%. I can probably say 80% strongly, and is 80% of whatever you're doing in life is showing up. The 20% is the rest. The 20% is chance, is the right person, the right time. And we have no way of controlling those things, but just showing up. And I was thinking about this. Like I said before, I never know what I'm going to talk about. A lot of times I wrote down some things yesterday that I might want to talk about, and some of them will come through and some of them won't. And I was thinking about, I wrote down forgiveness yesterday. And then I've been thinking about that today, this morning. And it was funny where my mind went. My mind went to, it's funny how you think of a word, and I talk about this a lot, and then it takes you to a memory and a story. I think about forgiveness. Now it's funny because it's going to take me it's going to be a journey before we get to forgiveness. But the story starts in Southern California at Universal Studios. It's like a theme park theme ride. I don't know what you call it because it's not like Disneyland. It's it's uh, but it's very similar. I think they got rides now, and it's a huge attraction in LA. And I went there with my cousin, who was a teacher at the time down there in Southern California, and he was taking his students to Universal Studios, and he asked if I could come along. And I don't even know how I ended up, like how you could just bring an extra person. So anyway, I said yes, and we went, and he had his students, and we walked around with, 27 students or so, 20 to 30 students, walked around Universal for the day. And I think it was when we first got there, Jay Leno was doing he used to do the jaywalking, and he was doing his jaywalking, and the producers go out in the crowd and get people, and they basically try and make you look silly or stupid on, I use the word stupid loosely because that can be so violent, but make you look look foolish on TV, but it's fun. You're on TV, and the producers hit me up and they saw me and they, hey, you want to do jaywalking? I said, yeah, let's do it. And they ask you a question and they'll have the answer sitting right in front of you, but you're so like distracted by talking to Jay Leno and looking at whatever, all the people around you. And then there's people laughing and so you never can answer the questions. And that's the whole point. It's entertainment. Well, I got on jaywalking and Jay asked me a question and I said something and then I sang maybe 2 notes. And that was that. Then went on with my day. Well, it aired, and the chaplain to a prison near my house, whose daughter went to school with some of my siblings, was watching Jay Leno. And they said, I know, Travis, that's Aaron or Bryce or one of my siblings' brother. He goes, they sing. And he said, the chaplain, this is the daughter and the chaplain, they're watching Jay Leno of me doing the jaywalking. So it's one big circle. Then he goes, oh, they sing. He was like, we should have them come to the prison and sing for the inmates. And so we get an email, and I don't know how long after all this was, to go to the prisons and sing. And it was a federal complex, so it was I think 3 to 4. Yes, it was like 4 actual prisons in one location. So you had a maximum security, and then you had a penitentiary, and then you had a minimum security, and then you had like an immigration facility, and it was in the middle of the desert, and it's a federal level institution in prison. So we ended up going and singing for the inmates, and I think we ended up doing it for like a year and a half. And I remember the first time that we went to a women's facility, and it was probably 200 women, and we sang our hearts out, and they were right with us. And it would get so rich and so heavy in there because you're in such a place of distress, and somebody is taking the time out to be with you and sing music and give sonic healing, if you will, to you. And so there's like a bond that happens between you and the audience in that moment. It's a really raw moment, and there's restrictions, and there's everything is on the surface. And even and one of the folks was able to get out and emailed us later, and we were able to meet with her. and she was able to tell us, she said, when you guys came and sang, I was at my lowest, and now I'm out. I'm doing good. And she was going to get married, and she introduced us to her fiance. And then and that was from the first time that we sang at the women's facility. And then we went to the maximum security and then the penitentiary. And the maximum security, I remember my dad coming, because it would be my mom, my dad, and then all 5 of my siblings. And we go into the prison, and it's a long courtyard. So you get through, it's a lot of gates, as you can imagine, in prison that you have to get through in security. So you get into the intro lobby, and you check in, get everything cleared. Then you go into like a holding space, and they check you there, and you get out of there. And then you have one more gate, and you get past that gate, and then you have the courtyard. And the courtyard is huge, and you have to walk across the courtyard over to the chapel. And so we truck all the way across in the chapel. And then once you're in the chapel, they lock the doors, and you're locked in that chapel. And one of the things that you discover about prison is once you're in there, whether you're an inmate, a guard, or not, you are in prison, and you are the same, and you can't leave until someone lets you out, no matter what your capacity is while you're in there. But I remember this one time that we're in there, and we're in the chapel, and I think one of my brothers couldn't go because he was too young. He wasn't even old enough to go. You have to be, I think, 21, I think. So 4 of our siblings are in there, and my dad preached a message, and I'm a preacher's kid. And I have a lot of issues with Christianity, with the Bible, a lot of questions, a lot of things from growing up in it. But one thing I can say is my father had a gospel that he preached and that he lived that was so pure. And I saw it every day for my whole life. And we had wonderful discussions. But what was interesting was seeing him sit before inmates that he didn't know, and they didn't know him. There was no previous rapport. There was nothing. And he preached this message on forgiveness. And I'll never forget it. And just witnessing, these are real federal inmates. These are people that are they've been forced to be very serious individuals. Life has given them, and they've given back, the most brutal energy in existence. And to see him sit before them and talk to them about forgiveness, it was transformative. And I still remember that. And I still remember the power that he had in his humility, in his honesty with them, and this ability to look inmates, human beings that were in a maximum facility, dead in the eye, and talk to them about forgiveness. And I've been thinking about forgiveness in the space that we're in now in our world, where so much hurt has happened, so much violence has happened, and it's been filmed on our cell phones, and it's been retweeted and reposted and reconsumed over and over and over again, to the point that it doesn't surprise me that we are suffering from lack of sleep and depression and all these things. None of this surprises me if we look at what we're consuming and just our world and the state it's in. And I think of my father's message on forgiveness. And forgiveness is this kind of universal thing, the way I see it, as this thing that you really, and we've heard this on memes and in quotes, you do it for yourself. You do it to give you healing and yourself peace. And one thing I've learned over the years of just dealing with people and in relationships and things where people get hurt and where I get hurt. I've gotten hurt. I've gotten hurt in the last 6 months with things that people posted on Facebook or emailed me, just out of pocket, things that are so on the surface for me, tender spots. And I've been really thinking about this piece of forgiveness and really leaning into it and understanding what that means. And this simple thing of letting somebody, basically letting it go and letting healing happen and moving in a way that is productive, spiritually and emotionally. And so I'm working through this. I'm working through this healing space as we're in this unrest, as we're in COVID, like this. There's so many mixed information still coming out, and it's painful to see that because people are being affected so deeply. Some people are losing their lives. But I'm thinking about forgiveness and how it's so healthy for us to let go. And it doesn't mean that, in my opinion, it doesn't mean that you have to, when someone hurts you and you forgive them, that you have to go interact with them again, that you have to forget what they did. I remember what they did, but letting them go and giving space for something else to fill that space instead of hurt or hate and anger. And that's not something that I naturally want to do. It is a kind of a maybe addiction may be a strong word, but you get comfortable with your hurt and your pain and you hold on to it. I've seen that in my own life, and it becomes this thing that becomes precious to you. You almost become predatory. But I am really leaning into this space as I do my creative process of let the paint dry in this. And for me, the art and spirit is all the same thing. It's all the art, the paintings, they're a reflection of what's on the inside. They're a reflection, they're a manifestation, they're a branch, they're an extension of spirituality and spiritual work and your body and what's inside. The thing that you can't touch. It's like when you make a painting, it's maybe an emotion or an idea that maybe you can't touch, but now you've made it into a physical thing and you can understand it better. And that's kind of my methodology as I move forward in this creative process and what I want to talk about and express in this podcast. So those are things that I've been talking about and thinking about, and my dad just came to the surface. And here's what's crazy is, I spent that time doing like spiritual respite care for inmates for a while. And then later on ended up working for a week in a prison, a state-run facility. So the one we were doing the music work in was a federal level, which is totally different than a state level. State level is kind of like the warden gets to personally decide how it's ran, whereas a federal has a universal system with how the institution runs. So if you go to one facility to the next facility, it's pretty much the same. I'm sure there's differences that slip through the crack, but a state-run facility, you never know what you're getting yourself into. If you have a lunatic, and I use that word very loosely, or you have someone who's not grounded really well running it, that's what the prison's going to look like. So you can imagine why I was there a week and it was like, nope, I'm gone. But one story I think about is one day I was on the prison yard and they had us searching inmates. And they would say, just go out in the yard, pick somebody and pat them down. No reason, no cause, nothing. None of that stuff's right. I'm just putting it out there. It was just the circle where we were at. So there I was on the prison yard in the middle of the desert. And I go up to an inmate, a gentleman, and I say, man, I gotta pat you down. And he was pissed off. He was pissed. I was interrupting his life, his day. That was his reality. And this is how it goes. So he doesn't want me to pat him down. It's not going to happen unless some other authority or because just between me and him, he's just like, no, it's not going to happen. I just got there. I only been there a week. He knows that. It's not a big prison. He looks over at this guy that I'm a big dude. I'm 6'1.5", probably shrinking. 300 and something pounds. There was a guy that was 2 times my size. His name was Big Chocolate. Not making this up. This is what his name was. He looks over to Big Chocolate and he goes, Big Chocolate. And Big Chocolate looked at me and said, he's all right. He's just doing his job. Let him do what he needs to do. And he turned around and I was able to pat him down. And then the guy next to him was working out and I asked him, I said, I got to pat you down. And that's a real moment. People want to talk about being this super guard no. If Big Chocolate said no, I wasn't patting him down that day. That is just the reality of the situation. As big as I am, not patting him down. And I think of just my relationship with prison and then forgiveness. It was all just been floating, and this story just came to mind, and I was grateful to this day. So thank you, Big Chocolate, wherever you are, because it would have turned violent, and it would have been bad. Who knows what the outcome would have been, but it would have been bad in that situation. And I just think about just these stories that make you, these situations that make you who you are. And I think about being able to have the mental capacity to read the situation and understand the rules in that situation, which no matter what they trained you for, you had to be able to read the situation and move with a level of humility. As much as you want to be this authority and you think that this is how prison is run, is you can lose all that, because if you don't, your life is on the line. But I have to credit all that to my father, and he's no longer with us. In 2000 and I think it was 10, he got killed in an accident while he was working on his truck, and he was a powerful man and had a freak accident and was burned to death from head to toe working on his truck. And that's how he went. And it didn't seem fair at first. And I can talk about it now because I've done a lot of work around this. But it didn't seem fair that he had to go that way. A man that had given so much, a man that had been so positive, a man that had been life to so many people, a man that had so much power just with his humility. My dad wasn't a loud man except for when he was preaching, but he wasn't a aggressive he was a very kind and gentle man, but he was a welder his entire life. So he was a very physically strong man, and his muscles were very hard. And I wrote a poem about his hands being velvet and iron, where his hands and the love that came through them were very soft, but they were very physically hard to touch. To the touch. If he touched you or if he grabbed you, you felt this strength of a working man his entire life. And I think of all of the situations that he basically breathes through me and just kind of exudes through me. And I can't even help it. It's not something that I even really can control. It's just a part of being his son and being a part of him and from him and around him my entire life. And that is something I'm grateful for, and just what came up today and what I wanted to share on this podcast. And so if that resonates with you, awesome. And I'm grateful for the opportunity. So I wanted to share that. And this weekend, I also wanted to share where I'll be this weekend. I'll be here in Tacoma. I'll be down at the waterfront. I'll be selling art. I believe it's near the Ram. So wherever that is, I'll be there with a tent and some art. Come by and say hi, introduce yourself. I'd love to meet you. You can follow me on Instagram at Travis Johnson Studios. You can follow my art website at travisjohnsonart.squarespace.com. And we'll close with a song. Do work that matters and go in love. Yaudore, yegarabukudu. Nuru iri iri di do 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 do. May you find the light that you are looking for. May you find the hope that you are looking for. Let this be your medicine. Let this be your medicine. Until next time.